Right or wrong, it's a reality. I being from the private sector say, hey, let's hire somebody and put them to work, right? The Rockland County personnel red tape is unbelievable. We are not the only village faced with this red tape problem from the county of Rockland. My contacts in Airmont say they've experienced so much red tape that they've gone and hired outside of the box. I have contacts in Rockland County government and will ask them to help. We are working within the rules and regulations that control the hiring process. We have to deal with the rules, good or bad. I am making it my priority to solve this problem. I believe the trustees have acted in good faith. We as residents have the best interests of the village in mind, don't we? So let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Olsten. Mr. Valentine?
Okay, I'm here, live. Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for coming out this evening. And I'm certainly thrilled to see everyone out here, and certainly the dialogue is certainly what democracy is. Let me start by saying that I've been in public service for over 40 years. 40 years. And I've lived in Chestnut Ridge since 1996. Of that 40 years that I've been in public service, 10 years was on the planning board right here in Chestnut Ridge. So I truly understand what takes place here in Chestnut Ridge. This is not new to me. And I have never supported special interests or self-interest. So the implications that that's taking place that I'm involved in, that does not set well with me. Let me say that I believe in leadership not by a wink and a nod, but I believe in leadership to identify and convert challenges into real solutions. I believe if you know better, you do better. The vision for the village must be based on evidence first. Then build a vision, not based on exaggerations, fear, and threats. We know where that goes. Our neighbors can't feel left out or disenfranchised, and I know that happens when I hear the voices here in this arena. I hear you, and I see you. I walk my community every single day. I stop and talk to every one of my neighbors. If any of my neighbors are here in this room, you know you see me, I stop and we talk every day about the issues and concerns that you have. I raised my 4 children in this community. I'm speaking here tomorrow at the school, and I'm part of the East Ramapo School District in terms of my brother keeper. I believe in this community, but I do not believe in special interest or self-interest. My wife tells me, why can't you ever say no? And I don't do that because I feel I still have something to contribute to my community, and that's what I do. I know this is a growing and changing community. And I believe in my heart that the rhetoric that causes division is not who the people in Chestnut Ridge are. As I talk to my neighbors when I'm walking there, I hear their concerns and their issues. They may not speak up here in this forum, but I hear them when I'm talking, when I'm walking in those communities. This is not who they are. They believe in religious freedoms. They want us to find a way to make this work that works for everyone. And that's what we're trying to do, trying to make it work for everyone. I know this is a very sensitive issue, but you know, we've had villages that have done this law in Montebello. We've had Wesley Hills has done this law, and it seems to work out pretty well. We will improve court enforcement. I know code enforcement is an issue. And we work, this trustee board works tirelessly trying to work with the county to get more code enforcement officers. It's a challenge. Government does not move very quickly. But I'm also a member of SHIELDS. SHIELDS is a law enforcement fraternity. I'm part of that. I've been in law enforcement for over 25 years. And as part of SHIELDS, I will talk to them about how they may be able to help us with that code enforcement issue until the county can come in and help us. That's a start in the right direction. A vision based on evidence and not on exaggerations is where we want to go. because the courts have time and time again in these suits ruled against municipalities. They have ruled against municipalities. When they rule against municipalities, the taxpayers' dollars, there were folks who say, well, let them sue us. Let them sue us. But what happens when your property taxes go up? I have to not only be concerned about everyone, but also those senior citizens who are on fixed incomes. Those families have multiple families because sometimes they don't want to send their children to the East Ramapo School District. They go to private schools. They have to pay that money. What happens then when their property taxes go up? We have to be concerned about every single resident here in Chestnut Ridge, not a selective few. And there are those who have been on the planning board that I've worked with are just as passionate about Chestnut Ridge as I am. As passionate. So I say to you that leadership is based on thinking through solutions, not knee-jerk reactions, not sound bites, but thinking through the solutions for the future scenarios that we are coming up against and what needs to be done so that we can do it and make it work. That's what we're trying to do here on this board with this issue. It is a very complicated issue. It's not an easy answer, but I think some of you have said that we have to find some compromise that we all can work with. And that's what we're trying to do. Government is not a perfect wheel, but it's a process that we are going through to try to make this work for everybody in Chestnut Ridge. Not a selective few, everybody to benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bennington. Trustee Cohen.
Good evening, thank you for coming here. This is a process that has been going on, as my colleagues have said, for quite a while, and members of this audience here today have confirmed that. It seems that we're coming to the end of the process, and yet it's really the very beginning. The beginning here is because we're going to be trying something that hasn't been tried here before. And that is because there hasn't been a need for it like there is today.
Excuse me, there's a little bit of walking around in the room. If you could just keep in your seats. Hello? Mr. Liebelson?
So what?
Thank you.
All right. When I moved to Rockland County in 1973, I found a synagogue here in Chestnut Ridge that I could belong to. It was just up down the street from a mosque and across the street from a church, and there were many other religious organizations here. I thought this was a great opportunity for all people. However, as other people who had other needs for religious worship started moving into our neighborhood, we found that our zoning codes did not fit their needs. When people move into a neighborhood, they bring their First Amendment rights with them. And you can have our synagogue, a synagogue on 5 acres, and to have to go, if your needs were for smaller synagogues, we never had a problem with people just getting together in their homes and praying. However, we did not have a mechanism for people who wanted to have a full synagogue of a smaller nature. So the issue was, do you just pray in your home without guidelines, without a path that they, within the law, that they could follow to establish that? Or do you have to have 5 acres? Well, so we left with a situation where people would want to pray in their homes, and without guidelines, without a law that gave them a path to follow, with permits and so on. And that's how we found people who were praying in a garage, in a great room, in a basement, in a factory of a building. So, because people did not have an opportunity within the law, they asked the village for guidance. And we said, well, what are your needs? And they came up with a proposition. We've studied this proposition. We opened it up to the public for comments, and quite a bit of good comments have come out of this. And as a result, we've had many iterations of that original law or proposal, and we're still working on it. However, it reaches a point where we've heard the same issues over and over again, and it's time to put this to the test. And I'm going to make a motion, excuse me, that, not yet? Okay. At any rate, this particular law that we're working on gives people a chance to have a synagogue of their size and dimensions to fit their needs within our community.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
And this way, there'll be permits, there'll be inspections, and you will not have like the We have had multiple opportunities here to speak.
One voice at a time. Don't yell at people.
We have had multiple opportunities here for people to look at the law and make improvements on it, or give us their version of what is needed. And we're reaching a point here where we must move forward. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor. Thank you.
That's why synagogues exist.
Ladies and gentlemen, the past couple of meetings, at least the first one, was a little wild. The others, we tried to maintain some calm, and we hope we can finish it that way also. I understand it's a passionate, no more. I understand it's a passionate subject, okay? So please, I would ask for the courtesy that all has been given to each of you when you spoke, so now to give us an opportunity to speak. So thank you. It is the responsibility of this governing body, our fiduciary obligation, to assure the village is legally compliant in its laws and committed to developing the foresight, the planning required to see to it that our village continues to progress and maintain the quality of life we all enjoy here. It is not an option to do nothing, and maintain the status quo. It is not an option to ignore the development of the law regarding houses of worship. Lest we ignore the law, the village faces the potential negative consequences as previously and currently experienced by various municipalities on this side of the border and on the New Jersey side. The village governing body recognizes the passion and the interest this subject has spurred. Truly democracy in action. And as a result of the various schools of thought brought to our attention, we have tried to craft the law through a number of revisions, not the least bit modest, that is fair, legally compliant, and clear to follow. I appreciate the fact there are individuals who feel the village is not running afoul of the laws governing houses of worship. However, as I have been consistently addressing, unless the village practices preventive maintenance, we are faced with crisis management. There also needs to be a recognition by all that as any law or laws, revisions may have to be made in the future. But the processes utilized in the review and assessment of any potential changes will continue to follow these processes as required by local, state, and federal law and input from village residents. The fact that there may be an out for corrective action in the event the village does not follow applicable laws should not be considered a license or a pass to ignore potential pitfalls because we could always go back later. Let's try to get it right sooner rather than later. An example currently is our Red Schoolhouse Road Corridor study. Getting as far as we did with input from our professionals and our village residents, we found we can continue the process and complete the remainder of the village. However, to wait a year for the anticipated completion and then continue with the law before us is not only an option, but not prudent governing. At this juncture, I will continue. The process of the development of modifications to the village's zoning code as pertains to places of public assembly and houses of worship began in November of 2017. The process followed to develop the law, to refer it out for comments by the county and various outside agencies, and to hold public hearings as set forth in state law, and we have followed it. Many people disagree with the process, but it is what the law requires. It is the same process, by the way, we followed when we adopted the rental registry law, the entity disclosure law, and laws pertaining to limiting solicitation within the village. This was the fourth public hearing held on the local law. The latest draft of the local law reflects many of the various comments received by both opponents and supporters of the law. The village planners have completed the full environmental assessment form, which analyzes the potential environmental impact of the local law, taking into account what our current law allows and what could be developed under the new law. Similar laws already in place in nearby communities, and recognize that each and every application under the proposed law will undergo a site-specific environmental review. Each time an application is made under the local law, the planning board will conduct an environmental review of the application on the facts which exist on the ground, not on the potential impacts that may in fact change neighborhood by neighborhood. Therefore, at this time, I would entertain a motion that the village board of the Village of Chestnut Ridge accepts the full environmental assessment form together with the supporting documentation attached to the analyses by the village planners and determines, number one, that the proposed local law amending the zoning code regarding residential gathering places and religious assembly uses will not have a significant effect on the environment, and number two, that a notice of the determination of Ladies and gentlemen, please. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please. And then the number two. Can you hear me? Number two, that a notice of determination of non-significance be circulated as required by law. Okay? I would entertain such a motion. Thank you, Trustee Cohen. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? This, ladies and gentlemen, listen, what we are doing is we are voting on the environmental assessment form that is on the website. Please, this is not the House of Worship law. This is the environmental assessment as submitted by the planners. Listen. I'm waiting for a second.
I'll second it.
As seconded by Trustee Valentine. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none. Thank you very much. Secondly, I would accept a motion at this time to close the public hearing on the proposed local law amending the zoning code regarding residential gathering places and religious assembly uses. But given the additional comments we have received this evening, I would include in the motion to provide the board to accept written comments for an additional 7 days from the close of the public hearing, with all written comments to be submitted to the village clerk by 4 p.m. on January 22nd, 2019. Thank you, Trustee Cohen. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Trustee Valentine. All those in favor? Opposed? There being none. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Valentine. Thank you, Trustee Cohen. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out this evening. Have a good evening.
Yes, right there, for coat. And I'll go introduce you. Hold on, let me check my thing on. What is